Rise and shine. So, I was driving to work this morning and I was just talking to the Lord in the car like I normally do. And all of a sudden, I was just like, Lord, I'm sorry, but I have to stop to tell you how beautiful it looks outside. Because I love the snow. I love nature. I love all of those things. And I was driving up 76 and the trees are lined with snow. The rocks and everything else is covered with snow, and it is just a blanket of white. And I caught it with my eye, and it literally just stopped my whole conversation with God in that moment because it was so beautiful. And so I was like, Lord, why do you even make the snow? Like, scientifically speaking, I know why snow exists. But I was like, Lord, why did you even make the snow? Like, it's not even no reason for it. And so all I heard was just because. And it's just because it's beautiful, just because it brings him pleasure, just because he wanted to. And, as I'm thinking about this and I'm driving down the road and stuff, I start thinking about his other masterpieces. One, me. Ephesians 10 tells us that we are the workmanship of God. We are a masterpiece of God. And as I was thinking about me and, how I was created just because you love me, just because it brought you pleasure, just because you felt like it was beautiful. And that thing just took over. Going down 76, a mess. Because, we oftentimes say we know God's love. We say we know that we're God's creation. We say we know like we're beautiful in the eyes of God. But just in that moment, it was felt. Like it was felt the same way that I was sitting here and I was feeling the scenery around me. It's the same way that God sits and looks at me and sees his perfect creation. Yes, the road is dirty. Yes, there's cars on the road. Yes, there are things taking away from that scenery, but the scenery is so grand that your eyes aren't even focused on those things. It's only focused on the snow covering the trees, the snow covering the rocks and things like that. And it's very much the same way when God looks at me with all of my many imperfections. He still sees that beauty. He still sees that perfection that he created. Not the perfection that I can offer, but the perfection that he created. And, it really just did something to my morning. It really did. It did something to my morning. It did something to my heart. And the Holy Spirit would not be the Holy Spirit if he was not throwing extra stuff in the mix. And, as I'm taking all this in, here comes the Holy Spirit. And the Lord sees your obedience as just as beautiful. The Lord sees your obedience just as much of a masterpiece as these trees with the snow covering it, myself. He sees all of these things as beautiful. He sees all of these things as pleasing to him, which is why he made it. And, obviously I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow. And the Holy Spirit, he just keeps going. And he's like, when people ask you why you went, your response should just be, because it's pleasing to God, because it's beautiful to God. Our obedience and things like that is worship to the Lord. And the Lord sees these things as beautiful in his eyes. The same way that we look and we see his creation, those snapshot moments, like we're standing on the beach or we're standing at a mountaintop, or we're walking through the woods in the springtime, and we get those glimpses of what we consider beauty. That's what our obedience looks like to God. That's what our worship looks like to God. That's what our living out our lives like Christ looks like to God. And I just want to throw that there. Just sit that there in your day, because it was set in my day. We are masterpieces of the Lord, and he sits and he admires his work. And, he has a great care and a great love for his work. And I just want to leave that there with you today.